Welcome back. If you just tuned in, this is The Press. We're reaching you live from KAFTAN's television studio here in the nation's capital, Abuja. Now our phone lines are open. You can call in to make your contributions or ask your questions. We have our guest here on the show today, our analyst, who will help us analyze on the stories that we read out to you earlier. His name is Chukwuma, and he is a journalist. It's good to have you on the show today again.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome for joining us.
Thank you.
All right, now let's go straight to quite a lengthy, different stories in that you find in the national dailies. But we'll start with the Guardian newspaper with regards to the controversial CBN cash swap. And here, the Guardian says bank risk run as citizens await Supreme Court's intervention. CBN insists on extension of February 10 deadline for old notes. Nigeria may lose $18 million in GDP monthly to Naira squeeze, and that's coming from Bismarck Rewaini. And then you have some other old notes rejection spreads across the country. And the Punch says Naira crisis worsens, confusion over CBN silence on old note legal tender status. POS agents, customers fume as protesters barricade roads. But then Emefiele justifies Naira redesign, accuses politicians of mop-up. Same story you find in almost all the national dailies. But then let's start with how does, especially with all that has been happening throughout this Naira cash swap or redesign, the queues you find on the banks, the POS, which they are another kettle of fish entirely. What's your response to all of this?
It's unfortunate that this policy came at a time when Nigerians were not expecting it, and it took them unawares. And you know, the bulk of Nigerians, we have over 90% of those who do hand to mouth who make their money per day. The elites are less than 5% of our society. So it's that's the impact is what you're seeing in the society today. Unfortunately, the CBN did not do a proper impact assessment, which would have told them that given the disparity between the rich and poor, that it would impact the downtrodden so much, and that is where it gets to the society. But holistically, I think the policy is a welcome development, because even for security reasons, you've seen now that the kidnapping that was like every day, the crimes were like every day is reducing. So let's see if this will help us to get into a new phase of a Nigeria.
So you are tagging the kidnap reducing to the Naira redesign?
Because you recall that the kidnappers, what they work with intelligence, and they know where people who have these caches at their home, and at that time they get somebody and get you to give them cash. So, but now when they know that people are looking for the new notes, they've reduced. In fact, they are also looking for the one they have already.
But we also hear cases of kidnaps still happening, and then they ask for compulsorily the new notes, and when they are not giving, they actually kill the person.
No. What we are saying, we are not talking about. It has mitigated it from.
But not the total eradication.
No. It's going to phase out with ease, because there are several societal challenges we are going through at this point in time, unfortunately so. But by the grace of God, if there is nothing I have observed, at least the fact that people, the worst thing that can happen to anybody is when you sit at your home, unprovoked, you're attacked and maybe kidnapped or killed. That's the worst that can happen to anybody. Hunger, you can bear it, and you can go beg, and somebody will be able to offer you a plate of food at least to survive for that time. But that's when you're just at your home, unprovoked, you're attacked and killed. That's the worst thing that can happen to anybody. If we can erase that phase of our national progression, I think it is better for us.
Okay, so we've seen governors coming into consensus as to kicking against the total taking away of the new old currency. At least, according to the advocating that at least we should still have the old currency and the new currency while it's phased out in a bit. Do you think governors actually kicking against the the CBN's mandatory saying no deadline, the deadline will stand, is a good way to go?
They have more information than I and you and I here. I think for me, I will interpret it to mean that they want to reduce the monies in the hands of private individuals, because in one of the addresses, the CBN governor said out of 3.2 or thereabouts trillion that is supposed to be in circulation in the economy, it's only about a fraction that is that 2.7 is out of the system. Is not within the circulation of banks. So which means some private individuals, the elitist class, have kept this money in vaults in their homes. So, and some of these funds were not legally acquired. And that's why the CBN has said, if you want to bring back the old Naira notes, you take it to the CBN, so that they know the volume you have and why you are having those volume. And those, I assure you, those people will not go with it. Unfortunately, the impact assessment, like I said, was not properly carried out. If they did not take into cognizance the downtrodden, because if you go to the hinterland now, you find out that people are actually bearing the brunt of this decision, and it is not telling well on our economy. So it will, I think it will make people vulnerable during this election. So if you see the new note, the vote buying might just be the impact.
Okay, just before we go into the vote buying and the election, because I'm sure Annabel has questions in line with that. One of the questions in the minds of so many Nigerians is, why are there no severe persecution on those POS outlets that have decided to racketeer this money and perhaps sell Naira for Naira?
Unfortunately, we've gotten to that point where you have Naira being bought with Naira. The CBN has
gone back to the days of trade by barter.
Yeah, the CBN has said in strong terms that they would fish them out and they will be prosecuted. And I think in a society like Nigeria, where the dragnet is for a few, you cannot tell where the CBN surveillance will get to, and most times our security agents who see what is happening in the society would practically look away from it, because these things are trying to intervene in society. That's what morally, that's how it is seen, that the POS guys, they are most times when they tell you how they go about getting the cash, you just try to understand with them. But legally it is wrong, and the authorities have said they will fish them out and they will be prosecuted.
All right, still talking about the Naira swap. Now, you talked about how the implementation, how it's been poorly planned. Now, with these controversies that it keeps causing, and then these contradictions, you have still on Daily Sun says, old Naira notes no longer legal tender. And that is coming from the Central Bank of Nigeria. But if you go to some states, in states like Kano State, in states like Ogun State, their governors are shutting down malls and banks that refuse to collect the old Naira notes. So, and then same, you have, I think it's also on another, that's the Nation newspaper, say legal giant knocks Emefiele for disrespecting Supreme Court. So now you have, now looks like when the two elephants are fighting, the ant suffers it. So CBN is saying old Naira notes no more, and then governors are saying if you don't collect the old Naira notes, then get off. So who suffers it at the end of the day?
The truth is, the CBN has the legal right to do what they are doing, and
even when the Supreme Court says something else.
No, the Supreme Court. CBN was not joined in that suit. It's the federal government, and I don't know the communication between the federal government and CBN, because if CBN has been carried along in that suit, and or maybe after the suit the federal government has approached the CBN to say this is the decision of the Supreme Court, forthwith you stop this process, because The CBN is a product of government. So the government gives it the power. So you don't know the communication between the federal government and the CBN. That is what would tell us if they would. Ordinarily, they should, because that's the last court of the land, and they should know it's not. You cannot appeal. Any verdict from that court or any ruling from the court. So ordinarily they should, but we understand the society where we find ourselves, where the executive is in charge of enforcement, and it is only when they want to enforce, they enforce. And I think we've gotten to a point where we should appreciate our judiciary for what they are, and their decisions should be respected by all and sundry, and the executive should ensure that at every point in time that rulings, orders and judgments from the Supreme Court are enforced to the latter.
But the judiciary is even making things easier, because now you have politicians, even some businessman will just even go get ex parte orders just to punish someone.
Now
it returns back to the judge.
That's the challenge. We need to wean ourselves of some of these lapses. There's no sector of our economy that is devoid of some of these lapses, but it's for the authorities to look inside and wean itself of the bad eggs, because the truth is you have people who prosecute their duties with ulterior motives, and you don't just know why. But when the authorities look inside, knowing the standards and knowing the regulations, they would discover those who are erring, and people should be sanctioned to serve as a deterrent, because in a society where there are no sanctions, you see crime thrives. Especially when you set double standards and you say people are allowed to go scot-free, maybe because they are friends of the those in power, and when it's for the low class person who does not have anybody in power, the person is punished. When you set double standards like that, people tend to disobey the law. But when they know that the law would haunt them when they err, people are cautious and they relapse when they want to take those extreme decisions. So we urge, that's why I will be calling on the authorities to ensure that our laws are made to stand the test of time.
Why do you think the CBN governor has said there is no extension, that he still stands on the February 10 deadline? Do you think if extended, it might have an implication on the economy? Like I said,
we don't have the information they have. It might just be for national interest. I have just said, from my own understanding, I think they want to stop so much money in people's home, because we saw videos of our Naira, which is our legal tender, as at that time, being destroyed because they were stashed in people's home, and it makes the economy suffer because it's not in circulation. So I think they want to curtail that excesses. That's from my own perspective. And going forward, also with the forthcoming election, where we are in a country where vote buying has become a norm, and with the new Electoral Act, which has given beavers thumbs up and mitigating election fraud and rigging, vote buying will be the alternative. And let me use this opportunity to call on INEC to also ensure that people do not go into the voting booths with phones, because that is what they have said. If you go in there, you snap what you... So let's have an election where isn't
that an infringement on people's privacy? Ask people not to go in with their phones. That's your privacy.
No. The truth is this. You see, when laws are made to check excesses, when you know that for vote buying to thrive, if you allow people to go in with their phones, what you need to do, what the electoral official wants you to do, is just to thumb print and give them
an evidence.
An evidence that you have voted. That is just all you're there to do. So if it means saying, please don't go to the booth with your private phone, it's just for less than 5 minutes, and you have access to your phone.
All right, let's
what I think is it will help us mitigate this vote buying, because you no longer have the opportunity to say, show me where you voted. Right. So when they know that you cannot go in with your phones, they know that they have no deal.
So it means that the policy still has in itself embedded with lapses, because you talk about vote buying, like having enough cash to give. People could actually develop other means like transfers.
Fine, transfers. You see, you know why people refuse to do transfer when they are doing shady deals? Because there will be a reference point. So at any point of investigation, and there you are identified as somebody whose vote was bought, there will be an evidence by that transaction which will nail you for that purpose, it will serve as an evidence against you. But when you receive cash, there is no evidence. You see, so it mitigates it. What we are not talking about total eradication. What we are talking about is a phase. If we are phasing out this phase of vote buying, it's a gradual process. It's not automatic.
All right, let's quickly take this call. Hello, good morning. Good morning, are you there? Hello, are you there? Okay, I think I have to let him go. Okay, because we're talking about INEC. Now you have on Daily Sun says elections under threat. INEC warns. Fears cashless policy may affect conduct of polls. Army chief asks GOCs and commanders to shun politicians. Daily Trust says no cash yet. 10 days to go, no cash yet for elections. That's coming from INEC. Do you actually think that they have a good reason to scream? Before you take that, let's quickly answer this call. Hello, good morning. Good morning, are you there? Please go ahead.
Okay, I think, you see, government at this point in time is not those in government, those who enjoy the privilege like INEC. They are not the victims in this case, because government would just tell the CBN governor to give them what they need. They
even met already with the CBN governor.
Exactly. So, and that will be taken care of. That is not the level at where we are talking about the challenges of this policy. What we are talking about is in the hinterland. If you see what is happening in the urban areas, then you imagine what is happening in the hinterland, in the villages.
Like someone actually said, sorry I have to cut in, somebody actually said that especially for some of these people in the northern area where they always buy food as cheap as 300, 200, how do they manage to survive?
Exactly. So that is what we are looking at. We say there must be conscious efforts to ensure that those gaps are filling. I don't know how they will achieve it, and that is why I was talking initially about impact assessment. When you do when you have a proper policy, a national policy, you do an impact assessment. For a country like Nigeria with over 200 million people, and the bulk of our population is the lower side of the ladder, so you must carry them along. So that is where we are looking at. Amidst the good sides of the policy, we must not sacrifice our people to ensure that we drive a project.
But if INEC comes out with this kind of I'm trying to manage my word, if they come out with this kind of report saying that no cash and it will definitely affect the elections, are they actually telling us indirectly that in case anything happens, this is what you should throw your blames at?
Well, let's not preempt them. Let's watch as they've assured us that the elections will hold, and they've met with the CBN to ensure that they have resources to prosecute the election, and these are the enablers that we need to convince ourselves that elections will hold. And it's a clarion call. The challenger we are facing is a clarion call on Nigerians to ensure that they come out en masse to vote for leaders who can make Nigeria better. Leaders who have projected the ideology to the part that is the people oriented. Because if we have a leadership that gives priority to the elite class, we will continue to go round and round this vicious circle, and the people will continue to suffer for it.
Okay, still talking about Nigerians, we've had talks or reports of people breaking into banks, destroying ATM queues as frustration. Well, you wouldn't blame them. We saw people going naked in the banking halls. How do you think was the best management system? We know that the CBN did not do enough when it comes to, let's say, orientation on sensitization on the new Naira swap policy. But then how should Nigerians manage at this time?
This is a very bad time for Nigerians, because we've never gotten to this point. Where before it, we've talked about unemployment, we've talked about high inflation, we've talked about so much. We've not ever envisaged a time where you have money and you cannot access it. So it's unfortunate. People are reacting severally. It's so unfortunate. That's why I would continue to say the CBN and the federal government should be strategic enough to fill in these gaps. It is obvious wherever these ideas, what would I call it now? Wherever these bad sides are rearing its ugly head, they should try to intervene. Like in Lagos, for instance. Lagos is a huge, over 20 million people, and you don't know how much that economy drives on a daily basis, Lagos State alone. So if they lack finances to sustain that economy, you know, people will go crazy. So it is because most of these commercial nerve centers are where people are because you have money in the bank and you cannot access it. And another truth that we must talk about this policy is so many people are not IT savvy. They've not been able to maybe install an app on their phone because they have
don't have a bank account.
No. We're not even talking about those. We are talking about those in the commercial nerve centers those who are into transactions that run into millions. Some of them don't even have app. This is because when they go to the bank, they get the money they want and they go, and now they are not being conscientized enough to take that better aspect of the
all right,
transfers are working.
Let's take this call. Okay. Chief Aro calling us from Kaduna. Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning.
Good morning to you, sir.
2 days.
It's been long we heard from you. How have you been, sir?
Yeah, beautiful.
Great.
How was your night?
Very well, thank you. Talk to us.
Happy Valentine in arrears.
All right, let's get your contribution.
The problem with this currency, let us look at it very well. Anything that you don't plan, you are bound to fail. And the box top on the president's table. You see, this particular CBN governor have been too political. And we need an economist, not somebody who can move money from one bank to the other. We need an economist who can really do the work and who can understand the pain of the people. It looks as if Emefiele doesn't understand all what is happening. The pain of the people. I saw him on the screen in channels yesterday making announcement that look, nothing will make him to change the date. Now the business has crumbled. You begin to ask, is it the same political party? You see APC governors taking APC and CBN and federal government to court. You begin to wonder what is actually wrong with them. What is actually wrong with this country? Are they working together? Today, you will hear Erufai saying one thing. He will tell you that there are some cabal in Aso Rock. Tomorrow, you will hear Samfara saying another thing. My sister, the same political party. Are they actually serious? Do they know the pace of Nigeria? Are they not demarketing APC? I'm quite sure you will not vote for APC. From the pain that you have, you will never vote for APC. APC stabilize everything. And you begin to think the government in power and we are getting to election and they are behaving like that they are accusing each other. Isn't that the right call cannot hear the right call now? Isn't that thing fall apart and the center can no longer hold?
Thank you so much, Chief Aro.
If you say you are not in politics, you don't have anything to do with politics. Politics will have something to do with you. God bless you. God bless you
too, Chief Aro, calling us from Kaduna State. Let's take the next call. Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, go ahead. In 60 seconds, let's get your contribution.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning, sir. Go ahead. We can hear you.
Okay. My contribution concerning this policy, I'm not saying that the policy is not good. It's very good, and I think that's something that will help Nigeria economically. But the problem is that when we are seeing governors taking the CBN to the court, it shows that this policy is not aligned with the politician. Because why I'm saying this because during the time of NSAS and all other insecurity problems that we had in Nigeria, as the government ever, as the state government ever take the issue to the court or to face the federal government for inability to tackle insecurity.
All right.
So when you now come to this money policy, they are now taking the CPN to court.
All right.
To me, I see that the politicians, they are not after Nigeria. They are just after their pocket. That is just what I want to say.
Thank you so much for that contribution, calling us from Edo State. All right, well, let's start with what Chief Aro from Kaduna actually stated. So I'm going to use that one, and I'll ask you two questions, and I'd like you to unbundle them in one breath. Now, he said APC fighting APC. Now they're still in power, and then they're taking themselves to court. You have one governor is saying something, and then the other governor even in the same party. Is that actually what the Bible says? Kingdom against kingdom. Are they like trying to dismantle themselves? That's one on the side. And then my second question is, after you answer that question, from the Punch newspaper says U-turn. INEC to keep sensitive election materials with CBN. And we recall, because I recall having a conversation with the INEC National Chairman, Festus Okoye, and then we asked, why are you not keeping your sensitive materials? Why did you decide not to keep it with Central Bank of Nigeria? Then they said, all of a sudden, he came out in the ballot and decided to contest for the office of the presidency. And so for that reason, they might not decide to keep their sensitive materials with the central bank, but now they decide to make a U-turn and then go put it with central bank. What does that actually tell you?
The central bank is an institution. Emefiele is just the head for now, and that's why we talk about institutions working for itself, not its leadership. If the institution is where you go and you can keep sensitive materials over the years. You can keep your sensitive materials and they will be in safe hands. I don't think whether the aspiration of Emefiele should change.
Even as the helmsman?
No, the truth is he's not on the ballot. He's not on the ballot.
He didn't win the primaries.
He did not contest for the primaries. He did not contest for the primaries. He did not. So the truth is, we should de-emphasize the person for the institution. The institution, the integrity of the institution should be what we should talk about, not the individual that is at the helms of affairs at the time. Emefiele is the head for now. Tomorrow he might not be there. So the services, it doesn't change the services that the central bank will render to the federal government and to the other commercial banks. So why the sensitive materials are kept at the CBN is because they have those services and it has not changed. If maybe the information you're giving us is now that there is a compromise within the CBN to leak sensitive documents, then that will be an issue for investigation, and whoever is initiating that process should be sanctioned or punished for it.
Okay, so now let's talk about the
compromise of.
Let's talk about the APC.
Okay, the APC.
APC against APC.
The truth is, you see, what makes democracy rich is the plurality of opinions. We might be in the same home, doesn't even in the family where we come from. At times, our opinions do not harmonize. We disagree to agree. But at the end of the day, where the meeting points will be at the court, when the court now tells everybody that this is the position of the law, everybody goes home. Doesn't change the fact that you're still an APC member.
I recall someone saying that this is the same thing that happened in 2019 where you had PDP, or 2015 rather, where you had PDP, and then it was like PDP against PDP, new PDP. And now you have G5.
Yeah,
all of a sudden.
The truth is, like I just said, what enriches democracy is the plurality of opinions. And when you bring we issues, that's why we talk about issue-based campaign. When I bring an issue and you're contesting it because you think you have a superior opinion, and we allow the people to decide which is most popular. There's no individual that is a bastion of knowledge. So we must not limit ourselves to any individual guiding us. Yeah, we are, as humans, we are all fallible. So we make mistakes, and sometimes you might be projecting a cause to be right and you don't know it's wrong.
So the second caller made a statement that the CBN governor is political, and I've often heard people ascribe such a statement to him, that okay, of course he's not being an economist that he claims to be. So do you think, you are a guest here and our analyst, so do you think in your own words that the CBN governor is economist enough at this present time?
For me, I have said where I've seen a lapses in this whole project. I said the impact assessment was not properly captured. Even if it was done, they didn't capture those at the lowest ebb of the ladder. The truth is, he's a professional. Give it to him. He's a professional. He knows his onions. Before now, we've not seen all these thrones being stoned at him. He might have his own lapses. Other professional.
Don't you think that lapses actually started when he decided to go into the parliament?
Well, I don't know whether he took that decision. I've not heard him campaigning for being. I've not seen. I don't know whether you saw him. But the truth is, we must appreciate people for what they do. And so far, he has battled with the economy, and in recent time, he's even one of the CBN governors that were reappointed. And after his reappointment, professionals, economists who can give us statistical information on where he has erred can now make those presentations. I am not one.
All right.
I can only limit my analysis to what we experience in the society, which I have said at this level, it's a not properly done impact assessment for this Naira redesign policy.
All right, let's go on a quick break, and when we return, we'll continue with the press. See you shortly. Welcome back. If you just joined us, this is the press. We're reaching you live from KAFTAN's television studio here in the nation's capital, Abuja. In case you just joined us, you've actually missed out on a whole lot, but then you can still join in the conversation and still call in. Our phone lines are open. Now, before we went on that break, we've actually talked about we've overflogged the CBN, Naira policy, and INEC. Now, let's talk about, I hear you say that sometimes, in fact, in Nigeria, when you have like double standards or double policies, one affects the elites or the bourgeoisies, and then the other affects the proletariat. Now you talk about the Fanika, these talks or statements on coup d'etat in Nigeria, and then then we saw that the DSS invited him over and then had some talks with him, and then yesterday they actually said DSS grills Fani Kayode and he was granted bail. But then Nigerians had been commenting and then screaming that what if it was someone else? Why would he actually make that statement at this time? And what if it was someone else? Would they actually give him just bail and let him go? And then they say that they're still that prosecution continues, not only the bail. So what are your thoughts on this, saying that for someone like him who has followers making such statements at the point in time like this?
It's unfortunate the part some politicians take to justify their cases. I was taken aback by that cool thoughts. Nigeria, over the years, has evolved into a country that is democratically better. Would I use that word? We are democratically better because we've evolved from a time where there was ballot box snatching. And now it is no longer the aim thing. We got to vote buying, and I just pray this election faces out also vote buy. So we are evolving, and we've never thought about the cool thing again. So for him to bring it back again, it's an ugly sin. And well, they said he was drilled for 6 hours yesterday, and he will be invited again to follow up on the. So it's a sensitive issue, and the security agencies knows how to manage it, and I think it's not the way to go for a Nigeria of today.
All right, let's quickly take this call before we continue. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Oko from Edo State.
Mr. Oko from Edo State, you actually called earlier. All right, go ahead.
Okay. This issue of Naira, I will wish that they will not extend it anymore, because the more they extend it, the more hardship people will get at the end of the day. Because even the Naira, the old Naira, they have already mopped up. They might have destroyed it. They cannot bring them back. So what they should do is that within this period of 3 days, they should be able to bring out the new Naira, so that people will be taking it much more.
All right.
So, you know, the thing will go around. So that is my take home.
All right, thank you, Mr. Oko from Edo State.
All right, moving on. We've seen the tussle between the G5 governors in the PDP and Wike. Many would have expected that by now Wike should be out of the party because of course, there's his own the issues pending in the PDP. But then, or perhaps maybe he would have endorsed someone else already. Those are the issues that are still ongoing there. But the Nation newspaper, we have that G5 will speak with votes on February 25. This is coming from Wike. So what do you make of the statement?
Before you answer that one, The Guardian says G5 not dead. We are silently strategizing. That's coming from Wike.
They are politicians, and we understand how politics is played in Nigeria. They don't want to announce who. We've waited for a long time. They don't want to announce the candidates they are supporting, and the 5 of them, they just have 5 votes, and maybe those. But
they just have 5 votes.
They have the 5 of them as individuals. They have 5 votes, and those who subscribe to their. Remember that the politics of today, people are being called upon to think for themselves. Don't incline yourself with your leaders, because any leader who is taking you to the wrong place is not justifiable. Because in the past, we've had leadership that have misdirected us. I am not saying the G5 might be misleading their followers, no, but that is the advocacy we are talking about today. That you might have leaders, because we've followed leaders in this Nigeria who have taken us, they promised us heaven and earth, and when they came in on board, they took us to places where we never have. So today the advocacy is listen to the plurality of opinions and take decision for yourself at the polling unit where you're voting. So some will also play out like that. That's why I said what they are sure of is 5 votes for themselves. Then maybe those who they follow, who buy into the ideology, will now key in. So individuals have their rights to their votes, and that is what I think will play out on that day, especially because they've not come out to say this is where we are going. And it means they also have something they are hiding from the public. So whatever it is, I think they should be bold enough,
all right,
as leaders to take a firm decision and say this is where we are going, so that even anybody who might not even agree with your who does not agree with your ideology for leaving the Atiku campaign and you're doing G5
and forming your own
exactly. Maybe when you take the decision that this is where we are going, they might key in because people have their own ideologies. They are just waiting for leadership.
All right.
That has been our challenge.
All right. In the next, if you can help us, in the next 2 minutes, I'd like you to take 2 questions in one breath. Now, one says, Bawa not defying court, says EFCC has over 100 CSOs petition National Assembly. We've seen that since 3 days ago, where you have some CSOs saying that Bawa must go, and then they're saying that they are just paid CSOs to take him out because he is doing the right thing. Now, I would like you to touch on that. And then the second one is with regards to the Punch says, resist interim government in a temptation. Afenifere tells Buhari, still on Guardian, says Igbo Elders Forum, Afenifere won against imposition of interim government. Why are we talking about interim government at this time?
We should not look at that. I doubt if there's any constitutional provision for that. So let's let that lie. Because we still have a 1999 constitution as amended, which is still subsisting, which does not, I doubt if it captures anything like interim government. So we should not. That was an intervention that was done during the military, and we understand how military rules go about their things. So we should not talk about that. It is not a constitutional thing. So let's let it go. It is. I doubt if it is possible. It is not.
All right.
On May 29, we'll have a new president, and that is what INEC has assured us, that the elections will go on, and by the grace of God, on May 29, we'll have a new president for the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
All right. So touch on the Operation Bawa must go.
For me, most times you see they say it's corruption fighting back and all that, but for me, if you have a court order, like I said earlier, our judiciary must be respected. If the court invites you and you don't appear, and there's a ruling for you to be in prison, go to prison. They did not sack him. The court did not sack him from his contempt of court. They say you should go to prison. And if you are, because you are, the EFCC is a product of the Nigerian law, and if you're in that office as a product of the law, and when the law tells you to go because you've erred, please, why not? You will come back and learn from your mistake. And for me, it will serve as a deterrent to other public office holders, so who abuse the privileges of offices. Whenever you are the court is the place where our laws are interpreted, and it should be accorded utmost respect, and especially by the chief executive of an organization. So for me, I think the law should take its course. If the EFCC gets a stay of execution, fine. But if they don't, if they've not, because I've heard they've thrown out the initial application, if they did not, please, as a law-abiding citizen of Nigeria, you are not the first person. Go to the prison and come back for your day in court.
Good morning. Hello.
Hello.
Good morning.
Yeah, good morning. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Tell us your name and where you're calling us from very quickly.
Yeah, I'm calling you from Benue State.
All right, go ahead.
My advice is just that let the whole Naira note still continue, because people are suffering. In my village here in Otukpo local government, people are negating themselves in the bank. Can you imagine your own money, they cannot give it to you?
So unfortunate.
Is it good?
It's unfortunate.
No, it's not. Most unfortunate.
Okay, so my advice for them, let's still continue with the old Naira notes.
All right. Thank you so much for that contribution. All right. Thank you, Chukwuma. It's been a wonderful time having this talk with you.
It's my pleasure.
Thank you.